Why aren't motorists stopping? I'm Sharon McDuffie, and see why people are asking for stricter laws for motorists who illegally pass school buses.
Find out how a city has come together to create a museum of one legendary musician. My name is Sydney Moore, and I have the story coming up.
Will Kappa Alpha Theta members be forced to leave their home? I'm Claudia Wills with how members are taking the news.
Skimp on calories, but not on taste. I'm Stephanie Poole, and see how many calories you can save during the holidays.
Are you or a friend struggling with seasonal depression? I'm Georgia Moore with Take 30 News, and I have the advice that can help.
Hello and welcome back to Take 30 News. I'm Brock St. Clair.
And I'm Stephanie Poole. Those stories in a moment. But we begin tonight with the final election of the 2018 midterms.
That's right. Last night's runoff election here in Mississippi marked the end of the last Senate race of 2018. And it gained a lot of attention after a blue wave nationwide. A presidential visit to the Magnolia State and controversial comments made from a candidate involving race. Despite these comments, Republican Senate candidate Cindy Hyde-Smith received 55% of the votes in yesterday's runoff election. She beat Democrat Mike Espy, who received 45%. All precincts are reporting. President Trump took to Twitter last night to congratulate the senator. He tweeted, "Congratulations to Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith on your big win in the great state of Mississippi. We are all very proud of you." The president made campaign stops in Tupelo and Biloxi on Monday to show his support for Hyde-Smith. You may remember Hyde-Smith's comments about a public hanging. That set off weeks of controversy. It began when this video emerged online of her telling supporters earlier this month that she'd be, quote, on the front row if one of her supporters, quote, invited me to a public hanging. She later called the comments an exaggerated expression of regard and apologized for them as well. She said her words were being twisted and used against her. She also made news for something she said here in Starkville this month. To a group of supporters, she said, quote, "There's a lot of liberal folks in those other schools who just maybe we don't want to vote. Maybe we make it just a little more difficult, and I think that's a great idea." While her opponents took the comments as support for voter suppression, Hyde-Smith says it was just a joke.
7 nooses and several signs were found at the Mississippi State Capitol on Monday, prompting more nationwide attention and outrage. Governor Phil Bryant released a statement Monday afternoon saying the perpetrators of this act will be identified and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I have contacted the Department of Public Safety and the Federal Bureau of Investigation for assistance. U.S. Attorney Mike Hurst also issued the following statement, quote, "There is absolutely no place in our state for these unacceptable symbols or tactics to intimidate others. If we find evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a federal crime has occurred, these criminals will be swiftly prosecuted and held accountable," end quote. Capitol Police will not show surveillance video while they were actively investigating. Police say they were reviewing surveillance video of the grounds to see who hung it there. The family of slain civil rights leader Vernon Dahmer found that someone had placed a Confederate flag on his grave. Dahmer died in Hattiesburg in 1966, defending his family from an attack by the Ku Klux Klan, angry at his work on voting rights. According to the Clarion Ledger, an unnamed black woman placed a flag on Dahmer's grave as an apparent political statement, according to witnesses. She had reportedly draped herself with the flag when she voted. She also put a red noose around her neck. Local authorities in Hattiesburg are investigating who placed the flag on the grave. Dennis Dahmer said his son, "Even if she had a positive intent, I wish she hadn't done it." Let's take a quick look at the rest of the results from the runoff election.
And these are unofficial results. For Circuit Judge, District 1, Place 3, Kelly Mims beats Sadie Gardner. Mims received 60% of the vote.
Chancery Judge, District 1, Place 3, Brad Tennyson also gets 60% of the vote, beating Lisa Kuhn. And for Chancery Judge, District 14, Place 1, this race is too close to call. Raji Favor received 8,890 votes. Lisa Ann Turner received 8,686.
Chancery Judge District 14, Place 2, Carrie Jordan was beat by Joe Studdard. Studdard received nearly 55% of the vote. And Chancery 18, Place 1, Larry Little beats Sarah Liddy. And finally, in the race for Lee County Judge Stacey Bevel beats Thomas McElroy. On to other news. Stop for the sake of our kids. Earlier this month, another child was hit while boarding a school bus.
As Take 30's Sharon McDuffie explains, now more parents are calling for tougher penalties and drivers who disobey the law near school buses.
Within the last couple of months, videos like this have been going viral. Children barely escaping from being hit by motorists who refuse to obey the law. Officials say the school bus is the safest way to get to school. However, children are in the most danger when they are getting on and off the bus. Just earlier this month, a 9-year-old was killed while trying to get on the bus in Meridian, Mississippi. Within the last month, several children have lost their lives to motorists who aren't paying attention or just don't have any regards for the law. Many surrounding police departments have started putting out public service announcements, reminding people that it's a crime to pass a school bus when it is loading and unloading. The Starkville Police Department made this post on Twitter, and many people were commenting saying there needs to be a harsher law in place for people who break this law. One child, whose parents want her to remain anonymous, talks about what it's like at her bus stop.
People pass the bus and I just sit there and wait. Wait was across the street to tell us to come on the bus. She's dancing.
Here are some tips to ensure that your child is safe while at the bus stop. Number one, if you can do so, wait at the bus stop with them. But if this is not possible, number two, make sure your child is there on time. Kids tend to be less careless when running to the bus stop. Number three, make sure your child knows to take 2 big steps away from the edge of the bus stop. And before going to the bus, look right and left to make sure no motorists are coming. I'm Sharon McDuffie, Take 30 News.
As of right now, if caught passing a school bus, the penalties start with a fine and go up to jail time.
Well, it's officially time to start decorating for Christmas, but local officials with the Starkville Fire Department want to remind everyone to be safe this holiday season. Fire Marshal Mark McCurdy says to make sure you replace the batteries in your smoke detectors, keep your space heater unplugged when you aren't at home, and make sure if you have a real Christmas tree this year to keep it watered and hydrated.
A dry Christmas tree is like burning fuel, you know, it goes up really fast. And there's a lot of videos that you can actually pull off YouTube and places like that to show you just how fast and dangerous a Christmas tree fire can be.
So says cooking is the #1 cause of fires during the holiday season. One sorority is coming to an end, and we'll tell you which one when we return.
Imagine spending time, energy, and not to mention money just to get into an organization that's close to your heart and to only have it close with no notice. Well, that's exactly what's happening to a group of sorority sisters that happened to them. Take 30's Claudia Wells has the story.
After nearly 40 years on the campus of the University of Mississippi, members of Kappa Alpha Theta aren't happy about being closed.
When they kind of explained their reasoning for why they were shutting us down, it seemed to go against pretty much every value that we stand for. So that was it was really heartbreaking to have our home taken away from us so suddenly and for such a nonsense reason.
The reason for the sorority being shut down is based on low numbers. However, the Ole Miss chapter is the second largest in the country. The campus says that they were never notified. However, National says otherwise. In an email, the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs said the university is advocating for the students
and does not agree with the decision made by the national headquarters.
The national headquarters insists the university was notified and had a part in the decision being made. The members have been caught in the crossfire of the confusion.
It's not even like the big things. It's not the social events. It's not the stole at graduation. It's the little things. Like one of the first questions I know my little sister asked was, are we still going to be able to live in the house for next semester, because there's girls who live in the house currently. Were they going to be evicted?
Members currently living in the chapter house have the option to continue living in the house for the rest of the academic year or move out now and be released from their room rental license. After outcry from members, the national headquarters released an apology for the way they communicated with the members of the organization.
I think if they had been here, if they'd seen the impact they had by so just, kind of carelessly tossing us aside, I think they would have changed their decision, or at least thought twice about it.
In Oxford, with photojournalist Parker Lee, I'm Claudia Wells, Take 30 News.
Kappa Alpha Theta chapters at Clemson and LSU may also be closing. There is not a chapter on MSU campus.
Some say it's the most wonderful time of the year, but for many others, that's not the case.
As Take 30's Georgia Moore explains it turns out it's the season for depression.
While daylight savings brings longer nights, it also brings about seasonal depression, a mood disorder that occurs at the same time every year during fall and winter.
Sometimes you feel like you have low energy. You're just really feeling tired and fatigued all the time. You may have difficulty concentrating. Sometimes you'll notice that there's a difference in your appetite. You may be eating a lot more than you normally eat, kind of craving sweets. Or sometimes you will have a decrease in your appetite.
And with finals around the corner, this mood disorder can really hit students hard.
I really didn't think that I had seasonal depression. I always thought it was like, stress from finals and trying to bring my grade up. And now knowing what I know, I see a lot of the symptoms I had in a few of my friends. So I tell them, hey, if you need someone to talk to, the counseling center can help.
Students in need of the counseling center can find it on Magruder Street, located right beside Hawthorne Hall. Exercising every day keeps the body more active. Getting as much sunlight as possible helps fight off the depression. The light can even be from your apartment or your dorm room. Making these changes can have a positive effect on your body. If you need more information or still have some questions, you can go onto their website to get all the information and find out who the counselors are and what they do.
If you're struggling with any issue, especially depression, please go to the counseling center. They made a big difference in my life, and I know they helped me. They can help someone else.
For Take 30 News, I'm Georgia Moore.
The Student Counseling Center is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Their website is www.healthmsstate.edu. Look for the Counseling Services tab. For emergencies after hours, call 662-325-2091. Get this. 4,200 calories. That's the average amount we spend eating on one plate during Thanksgiving and Christmas. Taylor Van Dyke from the Longest Student Health Center shared information on how you can eat healthier while still enjoying your holiday meal.
Go up and fill your plate with those fruits and vegetables, get a nice salad, some green beans, different things like that, and eat that first. So we're going to fill up ourselves on those healthier dishes, so we're less likely to overeat some of those creamy, more caloric dishes.
Some students didn't even know how much they were consuming.
I had about 3.
I think I only had one, but it was a big plate.
All right, did you know that each one plate that you had, each contains 4,200 calories?
I did not.
Yikes, no.
I had 3 big ones.
All right, did you know that each one contains 4,200 calories in it?
That's good. I need it. I'm an athlete.
Plate of rice and beans because I had to work on Thanksgiving.
How do you feel about that?
Kind of bad because I like to work out, but kind of good because I love food.
So I guess that would be another thing, is definitely paying attention to the portion size. When we are eating those starchier things like mashed potatoes or stuffing or dressing, things like that, a good recommendation is about a half a cup. So if you were to make a fist about this size, it would be about half of that.
Your beloved holiday dish, such as yams, can be your first step in creating a healthy alternative for the holidays. Now, instead of all the butter, sugar, and marshmallows that normally go into the dish, what you want to do is simply microwave your sweet potato for roughly 5 to 10 minutes. Then you want to peel it and turn it into a mush, such as this right here. This has all the same sweetness, just weigh for your calories. Pretty good.
I do. I wouldn't say, I'm human too, so I don't do it 100% of the time, but I do try to eat some of the healthier options.
You can find more tips and tricks for your meal at health.msstate.edu. A new museum has opened in Jackson honoring a jazz legend. We will tell you who when we return from the break.
You know the scene in those popular TV crime shows when the investigators show up? The one where they scratch their heads while trying to figure out who committed the homicide and when? At Mississippi State University, we're solving mysteries behind real-life crime scenes with forensic research that's a first of its kind. Teaming with microbiologists from around the country, we're examining microscopic bacteria that can help solve real murders. So far, our partnership with a major metropolitan medical examiner is yielding results with more than 200 real-life crime samples analyzed. We're learning how microbiomes change and relocate, uncovering evidence in criminal investigations by better pinpointing time of death. Way more exciting than being a TV detective. We're finding crucial answers when they're needed most. Solving mysteries with science, that's worth watching. The sense of place. We all have it. Often grown from deep roots in small-town communities. At Mississippi State University, our Carl Small Town Center is strengthening these ties. With nearly 40 years of making a difference, we're revitalizing communities into welcoming places to work, live, and congregate. By weaving together the best pieces of our past with modern technology and amenities, we're creating the hometowns of the future. Places where lifetime memories can be made, where you have all the things you need, along with all the things you want. Through partnerships with our communities, we're identifying improvement opportunities, recommending paths forward, and creating the plans for a better tomorrow.
Are you into art and music? Take 30 Sydney Moore will tell us what new phenomenon has been created within the city of Jackson. Sydney?
Well, if you asked me to play the trumpet, I completely struggle, but I try. And if you asked me to create some kind of artistic portrait, it certainly would not be easy. But that isn't the case for one legendary musician by the name of Miles Davis. Soulful and ambitious are just a couple words to describe this talented musician and artist whom people have come together for to open a museum in his honor.
Miles Davis, a jazz musician and artist, will have his very own museum in memory of him in Jackson, Mississippi. His son Aaron Davis looks forward to show this main attraction.
So one of the things that we like to do is show his artwork. So when they said they wanted to have an exhibit here, we said, oh, yes, why not, you know?
Within his artwork, Miles Davis had a passion for drawing these few things.
He loved drawing women, dancers, musicians, horses. So it's kind of good to see that all the hand-drawn stuff again. You know?
And when it comes to a time of celebration, look behind me and look at the people that are here to celebrate the Miles Davis exhibit. There's food, there's drinks, all to celebrate his legacy.
Vince Wilburn, Miles Davis's nephew, touched on how his artwork was more than just art, but they had meaning to them.
It tells a different view of the person of Uncle Miles, as he did like this sketch, I tell one story, this painting, I tell another story.
And it's this one thing his nephew will remember most about his uncle.
A superhero, you know. He's the one that encouraged me to play drums when I was 5. He had us make a record with him, Man with the Horn. And
while many young people who will come visit this exhibit have dreams of their own, Aaron Davis gives this advice.
Keep pushing yourself, keep trying to explore, keep trying to find new ways to convey your sound or your art.
In Jackson, Mississippi, Sydney Moore, Take 30 News.
Now be sure to visit the museum at the JSU Downtown Gallery in Jackson, Mississippi. Back to you, Brock and Stephanie.
Thank you, Sydney. Real quick, for those of you who are watching on MSTV, we want to apologize. You might just have started to get our feed. We were having some technical difficulties. But you tune in at a good time, because the Egg Bowl was especially exciting, and not just because the Bulldogs won. We'll have the video for you when we get back. You're watching Take 30 News.
This year's Egg Bowl was very one-sided, with the Bulldogs winning the game 35-3, but the game was almost 35-10. As we see here at the end of the third quarter, Ole Miss threw what seemed to be a touchdown pass to star native A.J. Brown. As you see him make a couple moves here, spin, fights for the end zone. The players were seen jaw-jacking here in the next clip. And as you can see at the top of the screen, A.J. Brown and Mississippi State Jonathan Abram gets into it. Then Jamal Peters and Ole Miss backup quarterback Matt Corral are in it right here. Then as you can see, the team just gets on the field. Crazy scene right here. Both benches cleared before coaching staff could get everyone under control.
Doing a little dance out there. Coaches are trying to get everybody pointed back in the other direction.
The result of the play is a touchdown. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct on all players from both teams. That will be their first unsportsmanlike conduct foul.
Now, after further review, the official ruled the play would not count and there was no touchdown. The SEC released a statement Monday asking the Ole Miss Athletic Director, Ross Bjork, and Mississippi State Athletic Director, John Cohen, met with Commissioner Greg Sankey to, quote, develop a plan and create a healthier environment, end quote, for the Egg Bowl. According to the Clarion Ledger, Ole Miss Athletic Director Ross Bjork said, I can't wait for that meeting. I want to know when it's going to be scheduled. I want to be able to stand up for this program and especially our players, end quote. There is no date set yet for this meeting. Now, the men's basketball team stayed perfect at home with the 88-65 victory over the Alcorn State Braves Monday night. Lamar Peters and Nick Witherspoon both led the team in scoring with 17 points. Reggie Perry, the four-star recruit out of high school, got his first career double-double with 16 points and 11 rebounds. Next up, the Bulldogs traveled to Dayton, Ohio, Friday for a 6 o'clock tip time. Now, the women's basketball team took on the Jackson State Lady Tigers this past Saturday in the important match. The Bulldogs would win the game to a tune of 105-38. That was the fourth straight game that the Lady Bulldogs would eclipse 100 points. The sixth-ranked team in the country was led by Tierra McCowan with 19 points, followed by Jordan Danbury with 16 points. Briamber Scott with 14 points. Both were career highs for the Arkansas natives. Speaking of Arkansas, that's where they find themselves tonight as they take on the Little Rock Trojans at 6:30 p.m. MSU has many hats. MSU professor has many hats, and one of them includes a rock star. I'm going to toss it back to Brock and Stephanie for this story.
Thank you, Rob, for the sports update. From rock songs to lectures, here's how one MSU instructor found himself in Los Angeles with his bandmates from Starkville.
I started taking guitar lessons at the age of 7 and started performing in some small ways about 8, 9, 10, that sort of stuff, and I've never really stopped.
This is John Bricado. He's a Starkville citizen, a father, professor at Mississippi State University, and a rock star.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Bricado.
John played guitar for a band called Skeleton Crew in the 1980s, a local act that ended up getting some more than local attention.
We practiced at a warehouse out on Industrial Park Road. That radio station had one of those mobile units that radio stations, I guess some still do. They, so hey, we're broadcasting from so-and-so's car wash or whatever. And that was the warehouse where they stored the mobile unit. And they just happened to be putting their mobile unit in for the night when we were practicing, and they heard this song. It was actually an acoustic song that I had written and brought to the band, and we fleshed it out. She loved it. She was like, I think I could get my boss to put this on the radio. And we're like, oh my gosh.
So this is really it. This is the same warehouse that they practiced out of in the 80s. The only difference, really the only difference is now it's the Salvation Army. But no, that's the same warehouse where they got their first break, and it wasn't long before the second.
Tim, the drummer, had grown up with 3 of the guys in Blind Melon. Once Blind Melon started getting some traction, Tim kind of convinced us that LA would be good because they'd be able to help us and so forth. So we ended up moving to LA instead. It's one of those things that as you get older, looking back on it now, it seems more daunting than I felt like it was at the time. Like occasionally I'll just think, holy crap, we just We just pulled up stakes and went to California. I mean, it just seems insane.
Things ultimately didn't work out in California for Skeleton Crew, but it wasn't until John got back to Starkville that he realized the impact he'd had on the local music scene.
I didn't get out playing music for probably, it was within that first year, but it was probably 6 or 7 months after we, moved back across the country and we bought a house and all this sort of stuff. And then I went to an open mic night at a place that doesn't exist anymore, and that was a big, frightening thing to do. You just like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to know any of these people, and I haven't done this in a while, and this is going to be weird. That was when it started, because 2 or 3 people in that crowd knew who I was and remembered the band, and you guys went to California. And it just, again, I was just like, are you joking? Like, how is this even possible, You don't want to look back and think, man, I wish I'd have done this, because there are all kinds of things I wish I'd done differently, but the California thing especially, I'll never have any reason to look back and go, oh man, if I'd have just whatever. Like, no, we gave it a shot. We gave it a serious shot. And there are times I think I should have stuck with it longer. Certainly there's, dozens of things that I regret and wish I'd have done differently, but we gave it a shot. We really tried. And it's, until you put yourself in that position, you just can't know.
I'm Brock St. Clair for Take 30 News.
If you keep an eye on their schedule, you can still catch John performing at Dave's Dark Horse Tavern here in Starkville every so often.
Yeah. All right, and that's all the time we have left for tonight.
Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure as always. Tune in next week for the final Take 30 show of 2018.